Hello, Owen Wilson Jr. here, quite a few years later. Looking back at one of my reviews that I did when I was a kid. Um, yeah, this one's a weird one. This is a review of a review. So I'm reviewing my Star Trek The Motion Picture review. It should still be on my channel, but I think I'm going to be removing it after this. Um, yeah, I really didn't like this film, so I thought what I'll do is, because I reviewed a film that I liked, I'll go ahead and I'll review a film that I don't really like that much. What turned out to actually happen was that I didn't really have any real points to why I didn't like the film. I just found it a bit long and a little bit boring and not really as entertaining as the other Star Trek films. I didn't have any real problems with the story or the plot or the acting, so I was nitpicking really at quite a lot of points in the film, um, and really struggling to find fault in the film to try and make it funny, because, you know, faults are funny. What turned out is that I ended up making jokes about things that, actually had some weight. My first thing here that we just seen is that I'm making us thing about the survey says yes, is to say that is everyone in this film going to die without any sort of character development or action? Well, everyone dying is dying in an action scene, so technically no, because they're dying in an action scene, so you got that bit covered. Character development. I'm just gonna play that bit of the review, and I'm going to say exactly what's wrong with it now. So here you are. So the film opens and ooh, yeah, Klingons! Nothing beats Klingons. Oh, this is going to be an awesome film. How awesome can you get that you've got the main villains of the original series already in the first few seconds of the feature-length film? And they're dead. So this scene was pointless! Yeah, so not really pointless, as I say, because I'm like, well, the Klingons and the Romulans are the main villains, really, of the Star Trek, the original series. Uh, so you get a scene with Klingons in it, approaching this unknown entity. And a very well done scene, actually. It actually builds quite a lot of suspense, and the Klingons are a major threat in the galaxy, so you know how, if you've watched the series, you know how strong the Klingons are. And they get taken out really, really easily by this alien, really, really quickly. It basically, what it's doing is it's setting up how big of a threat this new threat is by comparing it to a previous enemy in Star Trek. So it's not a pointless scene. It's a very well executed scene, actually, where it's letting the audience know that whatever's coming, it's bigger than what we've encountered before. It's more deadly, rather than just having a scene in a Star Trek conference room where they're explaining that the Klingons had fought this thing and that all the Klingons are dead. They actually show it to the audience because it's a visual medium, and its picture speaks louder than words. And it's not a pointless scene. It sets up the power of this thing. So later, when you see that 3 Klingon battle cruisers were wiped out in a matter of seconds. So later, when one Federation ship faces it, you you know what's at stake here. That's what's going on. So basically my entire argument is invalid here. So that's one thing I just like to point out, that I've come to realise this now. I thought I was being funny, but I really wasn't. It wasn't a great start to the video. Um, really. And my next point really surpasses that, because it's like I then say that we're going to have some alien invader on Federation action, and that they take out an entire starbase. An entire starbase for Federation technology has now been gone. So not only does the movie set up that 3 Klingon battle cruisers couldn't do it, but that the Federation's technology is completely powerless as well. So one Federation ship against this thing will be, it will just be taken out just as easily. I mean, the Enterprise has no chance really against this thing. So they're going to have to find a way, a non-violent way to get rid of it. Really, they're going to have to think their way around it rather than just firing things at it, which is what the purpose of these scenes were. So it's being a little bit more intellectual that my mind at the time couldn't really think why that scene was important if they're going to introduce Klingons into the film and then have them destroyed. Introduce an entire starbase into the film and have it destroyed. No, what they're doing is they're introducing a villain into the story and having it destroy Klingons and having it destroy a Federation base. It's not the other way around. The character development is in the character of the villain. We're developing the villain by showing what it's capable of, by determining its boundaries, and so far it doesn't seem to have any boundaries in terms of power. So we're basically setting up that, this is a very, very powerful being, which then complements later in the film when we find out that it's pretty much just an overgrown child and it throws tantrums, which is a good dynamic for the Vija character. And it's a character. It's not just a big alien menace in space. It's a character, and it actually does develop, and it has a real good motivation. It's not just trying to destroy things. It's looking for something very profound, actually. So yeah, I've got no problems with this film really, other than the fact that it's really slow, and that it was trying to be 2001: A Space Odyssey, because that was a very popular film at the time as well. So it was trying to recreate that sort of style, but that doesn't complement a Star Trek film. That's the only real problem with the film. If you were to cut it down to like an episode length, so like 45 minutes, which people have done, it's a really, really good episode of Star Trek. But as a film, it just has too much filler, and doesn't really work as a film. So, but that's not to say that it's a bad story, or that the actual, it's just that the execution of it is slightly flawed in terms of how long the thing is, and the medium in which this thing has been introduced is slightly flawed, because the story itself doesn't vary enough to warrant feature length. It warrants an episode, really, which it was going to be, because Phase 2 of Star Trek was in the pipeline, but then they decided to make it into a film because of how popular Star Trek was. So yeah. That's that comment on just that one first thing has already lasted like 6, almost 7 minutes, and we're not even into the main bit of the review. So yeah, let's watch some other things that came up in the review that didn't really have much weight when you actually think about my arguments thoroughly.